Right, think we're alive. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Hello, Jim. Perhaps Mary Beth is out there. Looks like she's trying to remember. Mary Beth, there you are. How are you guys? It is a hot one today. I was just looking at the weather and it says it's going to be 105 degrees is the high plus the heat index, so hope everybody's able to stay inside if they can. It's awfully nasty out there. I went yesterday for we had to go to an appointment, and it was like step outside and immediately need to use my inhaler. It was just gross then, and today's even a good deal worse, it seems. So everyone stays cool and safe, and if you gotta go outside, drink lots of water. It's something else. But yeah, today I'm not really using a sketchbook page. I guess I could. I do have about the same size as that. I do have a little watercolor sketchbook here too. Yeah, we can do that. Then I don't have to tape it down. And then I'm still actually doing a sketchbook thing. Checked on the garden early. That was a good idea. Try to get out before it's really horrible. I know we didn't get much relief overnight from the cool. All right, so I don't need to tape it down. And I just wanted to show, this is a painting I did last time in my sketchbook with oil paints. And this is a mixed media book. I didn't have to do anything prepping for it. And on the back of it, there's virtually no bleed through on the back of the page. Like there's like the faintest little elements of maybe some oily residue you can almost see, but it hasn't completely gone through. This page is completely clear outside of where the page is shifted, and I got some paint on there. But yeah, and it's all dry already because I used almost very little oil. Only oil I used was the fast drying medium and I used Gamsol. So that was pretty cool. I dig it. I like having a sketchbook that I can do that in. But yeah, I wanted to also say thank you to Mary Beth. You left a comment on my video. I haven't responded to it yet about like using the Gamsol and the medium safely. So thank you for that. I do always try to keep a fan in my studio running just because I'm always hot and stuffy. But yeah, I suppose it could bleed through more over time as well. I'll kind of keep an eye on it and see how it does and see if it works, how it works for that. Araset, hello! Guys, Jesus, Moses, seatbelts on. I'm only getting my tea sorted. That's all right. I'm a little slow moving still this morning too. This is still my first cup of coffee and it's still mostly full, so. Not quite awake yet. Mostly because some mornings I start out, when I get up, like today I had a little bit of a migraine-ish kind of thing going, so it makes me move slow. Trying to get going, drink water, have something to eat, start moving around, see if I can like work it out before I need to resort to any medication or anything. So doing all right though. We're doing all right. And we're going to draw this lady who, this is from, this picture is also from Gratisography. And I kind of think, I suspect, I mean, the background is kind of probably a giveaway, but I think that it's an AI image, actually. I'm not certain of that. I suspect. But it's still kind of a fun picture, and we're gonna go for it. So let's see. I have my source on one side of my screen, chat on the other, and we're gonna give it a try, see how well this goes today. Headache for you too. Maybe it's a weather thing. I know I'm definitely affected by weather when it comes to migraines and headaches, like changes in air pressure and such. It's really significant. Very significant kind of a situation. Okay, so I'm gonna start my sketch. It's a little bright. Maybe I turn that off. I wonder if we'll see a little better. like a little overexposed, but okay. I'm starting with a 2H pencil just to kind of like block in my shapes very lightly, because then I can erase if I don't like something well. And painting with watercolor is very transparent, so a nice light pencil line sometimes is kind of nice. What? Wait a minute. Just came from watching a dude burn at the stake. The Spanish Inquisition. Wait a minute. What's happening? Is this a movie, I assume? Oh my goodness, I don't have the mental capacity yet to even think about these things. Burning at the stake, which... The main movie I think of in terms of the Spanish Inquisition is Pit and the Pendulum. Earl Grey. You guys are doing it, like, soothingly. A documentary series. Okay. That's cool. Sounds very interesting. So, yeah. Pit and the Pendulum is a fun movie. The one with Lance Henriksen. If you've ever seen that. It's kind of crazy. Can't remember who else is in it. Loosely based on, you know, the Poe story. Of course, there's the black and white Pit and the Pendulum, too. They burned thousands of people at the stake. They didn't convert or confess, made their loved ones watch good times. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Humanity has done very terrible things to each other in the names of I'm right and you're wrong, especially when it comes to religions. All those things having been major turnoffs for me growing up with religion. I love these giant goggles. I kind of want a pair. I wonder if I could get some sunglasses like that. Wear them out of the house. Embarrass everybody around me. That'd be great. Okay. The light is a little bright here. I'm just gonna try. Okay. Until I start painting, I'm gonna turn that light off, and then you can at least kind of see my sketch while I'm working on it here. Looking forward to seeing how this one turns out. I really like the reference image. Yeah, I love the color. I like her expression. And the gigantic goggles I'm kind of jealous of. I did just go and get an eye exam this week. And we'll need to order some new glasses. So I'm excited because, as you could have probably noticed, I don't like very boring glasses. I don't think that I know of anybody who makes any glasses quite like these, but that would be amazing. I tend to order mine through online, and my doctor sort of scolded me for that a little bit. She's like, they're not going to be there quite right. My prescriptions are fairly low, so she's kind of like, ah, that's fine. But, yeah, you know, gotta stretch that dollar. I've only recently, you guys drinking your teas, being all good and healthy, recently started to enjoy a cup of tea in the evening. It never had really been my thing before, but you've seen me with my cup of matcha on here on Monday nights lately a little bit. But yeah, in the daytime though, give me that coffee. I don't care if it's 105 degrees outside, or I believe that's 40 degrees Celsius. Yeah, nope. Give me my coffee, and hot, not even iced. Still want my hot coffee. Tea first thing. Yeah, that's is it, that's fairly British too. I mean, both US and Australia were British colonies at one point. Well, US had a few different things going on, but for different times, but probably you did too. I wonder if that has influenced, I wonder where the influence to drink coffee instead of tea here became so strong, at what point in our history. That's kind of a curious thing. If I remember, I may look it up at some point. And I've still been thinking about the whole thing with what Arisette brought up during the last stream, that the bowl in the china shop myth or phrase. It's like, it's really more of a phrase, but still, the fact that it was debunked blows my mind. It's a way that I've used to describe myself about things many times. So it's just kind of funny. And the fact that somebody would go and do that is kind of amazing. Those Mythbusters. That was good TV. We are the convict aisle, yes. We are heavily influenced by the UK in most areas. Yeah, that's it's all right. Ah, what did I do? Just lost my chat. Here, there we go. There we go. Big fat fingers touching things on the screen. I didn't watch them debunk that. I saw handfuls of videos over years. Couldn't tell you the last time. It was probably been, I don't know. I don't think the show's been on the air for a long time either, has it? I'm trying to remember some of the things that I did see. The one that stuck with me is the one with like particles being in the air after you flush the toilet and testing it on toothbrushes in the bathroom. That stuck with me because gross. But I don't think the other ones have as much. The other ones that I've seen, I remember seeing them. I remember them building stuff and sometimes blowing stuff up. But other than that, I don't remember for certain which ones. The company that I generally have ordered my glasses from in the past is an online company, Zenny. Not sponsored by them, but I certainly should be. I tell enough people. They sent an email recently as I'm getting ready to go for my doctor's appointment to see if my eyes prescription has changed. They now have a lens with a shading on it that's supposed to help for migraines. So that was really interesting, and I'm going to likely give that a shot because I do have chronic migraines. I've had them since I was a teenager. So anything that might help that, I'm pretty curious to give it a shot. When I ever get around to actually ordering them, and then I get them and I try them, I will certainly let everybody know how that goes. Hand's a little shaky this morning, so doing fine little bits of drawing is a little clunkier than I'd like it to be. Yep, gotta hold it up and look at it once in a while so I'm not giving her an alien head without realizing it. Because I'm a little bit at an angle. I'm more above it than I typically have been in past streams. I've done a better job of setting up my space here, but... Okay. I'm pretty sure that's a wig, but man, love that color. I used to do my hair kind of that peachy pink, rose gold or like rose goldish color, some brands call it. I love kind of like that hue. It fades fast is the only problem with it. And I'm not the best at being all on top of constantly touching up and redoing all the time. It's all just such a pain. I'm Polish, Danish, Ukrainian, and every country around Poland, and they drink lots of tea. And I love me a good black tea, English breakfast. Wonder if drinking coffee was a way of fitting in. I'm second generation Polish. It could be. I think that I know a lot of people, like my mom talks about first jobs where when you had your break and you went into the break room, there was coffee. That's it. And so that's kind of where she first became a coffee drinker, which is kind of interesting. And so I think that there is some of that to it. It's like, it's what's available to you, and it's in your, especially in work situations, coffee breaks, break rooms at teaching or whatever else where there's pots of coffee. It becomes like a social thing a little bit, certainly. But just also what's available and what everyone does. So you just, I guess that's what we do. You know? I like Irish breakfast tea. For iced tea, I found I can make a pot of tea. Excuse me. Goodness. Using 3 tea bags of Irish breakfast and 1 bag of Earl Grey. Nice. Do you know something that I haven't done since I've lived here is do sun tea. I wasn't always a coffee drinker. In fact, I used to drink a lot of soda, which is terrible. But it was caffeine. And when I decided to quit drinking soda many, many moons ago, I started drinking like iced tea almost exclusively. Just plain unsweetened. I don't like it fussed with. Unsweetened iced tea was my way to kind of get past that that desire for something along those lines. So I did drink a lot of iced tea for a short while. My dad used to love iced tea, and my mom would often make sun tea in the summer times. I should do that again. It's quite refreshing on a day like today. It would be good, and it would probably brew in about 3 minutes. Out in the sun here. Her jaw a little too short. And actually for me too, when I started drinking coffee, it wasn't when I was working in a coffee shop. But I did, I started drinking it when I was working in a particular office ages ago, about 15 years ago or so. I can't do coffee. It doesn't wake me up. It makes me tired and I crash. Yeah, I guess, you know, with everything affects everyone differently. I don't know that it actually wakes me up. I think it's, I don't know. I don't really know how it does. I just really, it's a little bit ritual to have the warm cup of it, and I like it as part of it too. I really like coffee. I didn't at first, but being ADHDer, I don't find I get affected by caffeine very easily. One of my friends that I get together with try to get together once every 2 months at the latest, but we tend to drink a lot of coffee when we're together, and she'll be like, oh, it's gotten to her, and she's all jittery and stuff, and I'm like, really? I could take a nap. Hey, as long as you got something, you love your tea, that's good. Whatever your particular cup of cozy is, right? Steam almond milk for yours. Ooh. That could be really good too. I was putting a little bit of soy milk into my matcha on occasion. I tend to buy soy milk mostly as my alternative. Just has like a good dose of protein in it, and texture isn't as funky as some of the alternative milks. Speaking of coffee, I have my backup refill thing. The trick is to not spill it on myself. That's always the trick. There we go. Let's put it right in my bloodstream. Now where did I put my pencil? Ah, there. Okay, let's try to get this drawing done so we can get to some painting here. I've been working with I've been playing around with the gouache. I did some oils. I've been working on the giant guy a little bit more since my last stream I worked on it. So it's been a few weeks actually since I got out my watercolor, so we're due for a watercolor session. Alright, I think that's pretty much the sketch for her face. Kind of block in some of these other elements real quick and then start making a mess. I'm kind of excited to shop for new glasses though, because I really like finding some goofy ones, some fun things with big color, and because they're so cheap through that online company, usually can get a few pairs for way less than I would pay for one at a regular glasses place. The description of this photo says something like 1960s styled woman, and I think that's a stretch. And back on our caffeine talk, for my mom's birthday this year, because she was in Italy with my sister in the spring, and they talked about a wonderful cappuccino that they had because they're both coffee drinkers too. I got her a little espresso machine for the kitchen so she can brew a couple of as much as 2 shots of espresso at a time, and froth. It has a little milk frother thing on the side, little steamer frother guy. So now I just need to... She says she's got it all put together, but I'm gonna go over there and help her brew a cup, so that'll be fun. Do some of that. I worked at a coffee shop where I made drinks like that. So I know like the components and I know how they're supposed to be, but it's been a long time. Pretty sure it'll be not too hard to get back Back on it. Trying to find an alternative to milk allergies. Soy is not good for me, and almond milk is not earth friendly. I know, it's really tough. I've looked at a lot of them, and some of the ones that are probably better in terms of those elements would be like hemp milk, I think, is pretty green in terms of how it's made. But it's kind of hard to find. The coconut milk, not the canned stuff, but the type that they sell for you to drink. It's not too bad. Probably just have to watch quantities of that. So yeah, I mean, it's always just a matter of trying things until you find the right thing. And of course, what's available at the stores around us. Take my tea unsweetened, no milk or lemon, just tea. It's funny, for a long time, lemon in tea was awful. Then I had I can't read, Arnold Palmer. And that's good. I've actually never tried an Arnold Palmer. God, why can't I say that? But I get the appeal. I definitely understand. All right, let's see. Are we here? Are we good? Do we want to get going here? Just your face there, hair. Erase some extra lines. And I think we're going to start putting some paint down. All right. Not too worried about the background. I'll do some kind of like abstract-y color stuff. Your sister-in-law had beautiful blonde hair that she had a tint in it. They called it a mink. Oh, it was beautiful like the photo. That's awesome. Anytime I heard Arnold Palmer, it reminded me of the movie The Other Guys. Don't know if you guys have seen it. Do recommend. Think so. It does not ring a bell off the top of my head. But I also don't remember things, and that's why I keep a list of movies that I've seen. Because if I don't have it, I'll be like, every time I want to think about a movie that I liked or recommend something, I will never remember what the heck it was called. All right, so let's see. We're going to go with some blue tones for her, for shadows to start with. And that will get pretty well covered up by the end, but that's what we're going to start with. You learned... Wait. That's a good one. You learned to dance sarcastically? Oh, that's... Oh. Okay. Gonna have to check this out. That doesn't sound familiar at all. Alright, probably this brush might be a little big, but I'm just going to use it to lay down some sections of shadow. And try not to hit the microphone with my brush. I'll zoom in a little bit. There. You can't see my whole palette, but I think probably seeing the painting helps a little bit. Seeing a little better. Yeah. I've actually not watched any movies just recently this week, but we've been doing something that we about never do, and that is playing a video game. Never do that. Not these days. Like around the time I was in college, I would play some. But we didn't have like video gaming systems growing up or anything like that. And At one point in time, I think my sister and I bought a used, or the original Nintendo used from a garage sale, but we never spent much time messing around with it. Don't go chasing those waterfalls. That only makes me think of TLC. I love video games. They make my brain happy, but I didn't play video games really till my 30s. Okay, I'm gonna have to check out this movie. The Other Guys it was called, was it? I'm writing it down. Add it to my watch list. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell. Oh, okay. I probably have avoided it because I'm gonna, like, people hate me for saying this. I'm not a big Will Ferrell fan. There's an opening with Samuel L. and The Rock. Wow, okay. One of these movies with everybody. That's all I'm saying. I will check it out. Gotta switch things up sometimes from... My default, if I'm just like looking for a movie to watch, is just go on to like Shudder and see what ridiculous thing I haven't seen yet. But yeah, like I said, we started playing a game, and it's an old game too, older for sure. And it's not something that I thought I would have enjoyed ever. It's XCOM 2, which is like, it's an alien invasion, and you command troops that are trying to fight the alien forces. You're like a resistance. And I've never been much for like strategy. It's turn-based strategy too. I've never been much for strategy games or fighting like soldier games or anything, but surprisingly, like, really get sucked into it. I was surprised. Yeah, I do. You're great. I think we do have the same taste in movies, so that's why I wrote it down. I'll check it out. Everybody's saying it's good. Yeah, it's XCOM. It's the second one, but I know that there was some version of it that was released after, like a DLC type thing or something. I don't know. But it's like I get sucked into it. Like I'm like anytime we're gonna pull that up, it's like, but you know, I gotta remember to go to bed at a decent time tonight, so I gotta pay attention to the clock. Oh my god, it's midnight. How did that happen? That's the worst part of it, probably, for me. Just losing the time. I play games that let me build, automate, organize, like House Flipper, City Skyline, Minecraft, RimWorld, Stardew Valley. They're my go-tos. Okay. During the pandemic, I think I messed around with Stardew Valley for a very short period of time, and then it got to a point where it's like, okay, I get it. And then I was just sort of done with it, and didn't care if I picked it up again. But that's just my, that novelty-seeking brain. But the other games I've never played or messed around with. I'm familiar with a couple of them from my nieces having been fans of them. I think especially Minecraft, I've heard them talk about a lot over the years. Right. So this is really just a base layer. It'll come together a lot more as I continue on. I'm gonna need to switch to a smaller brush very soon here. At least for continuing with the face. What we got here? You will do fine. From number, like, what is this, an 8? 10? I don't know. From that to number 2. Extremes to extremes. Okay, Michael Keaton is lieutenant supervising Farrell and Wahlberg. The DVD has outtakes of him doing ad-libs. Good stuff. Ooh. Huh. Who'd have thought Michael Keaton could do comedy? Well, no, I mean, he does all kinds of things, but I guess it's just not what I assume in my head, but I guess I grew up watching a lot of Batman movies. The 80s ones. Probably not the only thing that Michael Keaton wants to be remembered for, I'm sure. Keaton in is prime in his comedy. Nice. I love the turquoise. It should not be very recognizable, the turquoise shades, once I'm finished. This is really just like a little shadow toning. I love watching the videos of people on Instagram or other sites where or and YouTube, of course, where they paint like a girl. Maybe it's like a time lapse of it, and it's in watercolor, and it's beautiful at every layer. Like, my paintings almost always have this stage where it's like, you're wondering what the hell I'm doing. Is this going to come together? You know? So, yeah, that's sort of interesting to me to watch. I love to see how other people work. It's so interesting. And we all do things so differently. Beetlejuice was horror comedy. Oh, I love Beetlejuice. They're doing a remake now. And I don't think it's just in talks that they might do it. I believe that I understand that it's in production. I think if I've understood correctly. So yeah. And I think that it's going to be Michael Keaton again, which would be great. I think a lot of at least a decent amount of the original cast. So I'll have to see it. You know, I grew up with that stuff. I even remember the cartoon, the Beetlejuice cartoon. Is that 90s? Early 90s? I'm not sure now. So long ago. Lydia and Beetlejuice were like a team. They were buddies doing things. It spoke to my goth sensibilities. The middle part of creativity, man, it's so human, and I'm so fascinated about what is in the middle section that makes us struggle so. Yeah, and it's so real, too. I just remember there was a period where I was seeing people posting about how filming everything and having to make the process look perfect, like, was so ruining creating for them. I'm like, well, then be honest about it. It's not always pretty. Sometimes we struggle, sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's not going the way you want it to go, and that's real. Like, show that. Why are we so afraid to... Why does creativity need to be Instagram ready for at every stage of the game? Like, it's okay to be real. Although, I mean, as we all know, Instagram and those things are not exactly have the best reputation for being real. But still, I don't think people need it to be perfect at every stage. It's the reveal that's the, like, how do you get it there? That's the fun mystery of it. Happens in writing and art and music, creating anything. That middle section is a dry desert you gotta drag your ass through, yes. I agree. Well, for me and from what I've seen with others, I think it's true. Like, the creative process isn't a formula. Even if it is, your things don't always go according to plan. And you virtually always have to make some adjustments and then decide, is it worth it? Do I want to push through this? It's a whole thing. For sure. I watch other YouTubers painting as well. Maybe too much. I love it. It's relaxing. You can get ideas about things. You can learn something from other people's creative practices, how they do it. I've definitely learned stuff from watching other people, just watching, like, oh, that's an interesting approach. I never thought about that. Maybe I'll integrate that somehow into my own work. Maybe I'll try it, or maybe not. I mean, maybe it's just like interesting. But yeah, nothing wrong with any of that. Okay, my slightly bigger brush to a little, oops, hitting the mic again. A little bit of shadow in some of the other areas where it's generally just the face is where there's any much shadow, much dark shadow, but still kind of block some in here. Oh yeah, Nightmare Before Christmas for sure. Wonderful. The remake or sequel, I don't know. It probably one of those like soft reboot situations, I would imagine. Where it's technically a sequel, but they're gonna kind of rehash the same thing, start it over with a new generation, new characters. That's what I would guess, because that's kind of the thing everyone does anymore. But don't take my word for it. I haven't been watching particularly for news on it either, so I'm not sure if there's been anything, any teasers or anything released yet, or any, you know, teaser photos of cast, that sort of thing. I haven't been aware of. Sometimes you see that, like, where they release some pictures of the people in their costumes as the characters to try to drum up some excitement for it. I do not know yet. We have to keep our eyes open. Okay, so when I was a visiting artist and sub, I showed of animation and special effects, the purpose of showing hard work and mistakes. Yes, I love that. The painters are there to be seen. Yes, that's very true too. There's something about not keeping things precious and secret. The creative process in general. I think that it's like a wonderful way to, you know, bring people in behind the scenes and see how the pudding is made. And to have, like, input, you know? I think that when we work so much in our little bubbles, our creative spaces, because generally creative work is very, like, singular, you know? You're doing a lot of it just by yourself, in a room like this, painting pictures, doing whatever. So to have there be a community about it, in terms of feedback or just sharing ideas and things, like, I don't know. I think that that's just wonderful. I think that's the way, I think that's a great way to have things be. There was something about those days, I suppose, back in art school, when you had a room full of people in their studios working in their little spaces, that, yeah, you could just focus on your own work and be in your own little space, but you were also so close to other people doing the same thing. So you get that, not just, like, you also get that mirroring work element. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term of mirroring, where, like, sometimes it's easier to work if you're around other people who are working also. It's just, like, then you can get into the zone and kind of be doing the same thing. Co-working, and just, like, if you need to walk away for a second or get some feedback, there's people right there that can do that. Like, that's something that's really nice, that I wish was more accessible when you're no longer in that environment. Yeah, not getting anything original for movies, that's just all in studios trying to guarantee that their investments are going to bring them a profit. We can't try new things, we need to make money. What do we know will make us some money? It's the worst. Yeah, this brush likes to shed its bristles. This is one that I think I inherited. Do not think that that is a brush that I myself purchased. Something in one of my dad's old art kits from ages ago. I love watching you watercolor, inspiration for me. I have a plein air date tomorrow. Oh, nice. Thinking I might try watercolor. Love these other artists, so sharing, etc. Yeah, I do too. And I love that. Yeah, try some watercolor out plein air. The nice thing about it working outside like that is the fact that it dries fast. So you just like work on one area, step aside, work on another area, and then, oh, guys, I'm sorry. And then you can go back to that first area and add some more layers pretty quickly. And it travels so easy. That's another thing. Like this weekend, I'm going to be doing a live demonstration at an art fair here in my town. So I'm not thrilled with what I've come up with to paint for it, but it'll work. Just doing a couple portraits on like some 24 by 24 canvases, a couple. And yeah, painting outside. So I'm gonna have to, for big canvases, I'm gonna have to take a easel, not like a fold up one, like a slightly bigger one. I'm gonna have to figure out how I'm taking a palette, because it's actually supposed to be really nice this weekend, thank God. Because it was like today, I don't know. The art fair is Art in the Park in Arlington Heights. What color did I choose for the hair? That's a great question. It is, okay. This is me being a very, very bad artist. I don't know the names of my colors once I put them in my palette. I don't remember. It's, but I have two kind of magenta colors. One is cool, one is warm. And I took the warm magenta color with some, and honestly just mixed it in with some of the color that I use in the background. And what I used in the background was a mix of a tiny bit of the cool magenta with the gold and the kind of lemon yellow color. So yeah, I know everybody's always like, my palette consists of these colors, and I'm just like, even if I paid attention, I only remember what a few of them are called. I just can't retain that information. My brain's like, not important, on to the next thing. I should probably have like a list somewhere. Or do like a lot of people I know do their proper, take their palette, do the swatches, and say what they are. I've never done that. It's never, I guess, occurred to me, even though I probably should. Yeah, traveling with art stuff is trickier. The one advantage to working outside with acrylic paints, if I'm working on 2 paintings, is probably by the time it's all over, the first painting should be dry, so getting them home shouldn't be too bad. I have a Kia Soul. It's an older guy, but I can fold down the seats and have a decent amount of space to like lay down some things in the back. And then I'm gonna probably take a small table with some tchotchkes and business cards and things, a place to put up like my brushes and water, carry water for painting with, but also for drinking because it is outdoors in the summertime. So, and yeah, and I still need to do the transfers. It's Sunday and the canvases are still wrapped in plastic. I need to get my sketches on them. And the reason I haven't gone ahead and done that is that I think I'm going to tone the canvas too, but the reason I haven't gone ahead and done it is because I'm not that excited about the things that I chose to paint. So that's been my hang up about it so far. But anyway, yes, that's my little blurb about that. It'll be interesting. It can be fun. I did it last year, and I did it with watercolors last year, so it was smaller, and I actually had a whole tent. I'm not doing the tent this year. It's not the best fit for my art, like my art, because a lot of my work tends to have some nudity and like it's not like profane or anything, but there are some kind of mature themes that go along with some of the things I'm talking about with mental health and women's rights and stuff. So when I had a tent with work in it last year, actually got some complaints that there was nudity and some of that kind of thing there. So not doing the tent this year, but I still agreed to do the demonstrations. So that there are fairs where that would be fine. This was not one of them. It's like a community, for being as close to the city as I am, still a little, I guess, conservative in some ways, some areas of it. So, yeah, it is what it is. I would love to have a local art group to meet with. There may be some, but my situation makes it difficult to get out. Yeah, I've struggled with finding that too. There is, I have found like a couple of local art guilds. There's one in my town that actually puts on this fair that I joined for a while. I think really nice people, but only a handful of folks there are practicing artists at all. And yeah, I just don't think I'm gonna continue with that one. I am joining one that's a few southern suburbs away that seems to be much more like a little bit more active. Is it Elmhurst? And they're involved with like a college art gallery that puts on shows and things, so could possibly get some experience helping with hanging shows and volunteering for stuff like that. And it sounds like they're very active in a very artistic way, so I'm going to try going to that. But it's always like like once a month they meet on a Thursday night, so it's always a little tricky getting there because it's also a little bit of a drive from here. Ernie Kovac said Hollywood's rule is if something is a success, beat it to death. Oh, that's the truth, isn't it? Thanks. Cool and warm. I do the same. Yeah. It's often how I tend to start anymore. I took a Sharpie and wrote in the area by each paint color, did the swatches, and they are in a stack. Need to, yeah. The biggest problem with the way that I work comes to when I'm trying to communicate what I'm doing. Like, I'm fine with, like, I know what the colors are, their temperatures, how I like to mix them. The issue is if I'm doing this and I'd like to share that information with you guys. I mean, I've had this palette for a couple of years now, and I like have added things to it and pulled some things out. So it's really a mishmash of things at this point. It'd be really hard for me to go back and really nail it down. There are some that I know, a couple, like I know my Prussian blue, I know the Payne's gray, black, white, of course, things like that. But yeah, it would take some doing to go in there and try to figure out which was what, since I no longer have the tubes and things, unfortunately. I am not good with organization. I'm not good with preparation. These are things that I apparently and always tend to struggle with. Okay. Now on to some skin tones. I'm gonna neutralize. Oh, sorry, there's just nowhere this microphone is safe. Start getting in some warm shades here. And some flesh tones. And do a bit of a wash. That might be a little too warm. What do I want to do here? Just a little bit of just kind of a wash over the shadows, and then I'll go back in and pull up where I want highlights. And start building where I do want warmer tones. This is very loose. I don't know, like, this is a very, very, very loose approach for me, this painting. But depends on the picture and the occasion and all the things. Not a ton of like significant highlights on her, even though there's some kind of dramatic light, but it's very soft. Some of that I suspect has to do with my suspicion that it's probably a AI generated photo or augmented or something. Like her nose ridge and honestly right here on her chin are like the lightest spots. And the ridge over her lip. Alright, that'll take very little time to dry. And in the meantime, let's see. She's fairly cool toned. So I'll use my cooler magenta shade. And I'm gonna lay some of this on while the lower layer is still a little wet, so that where some of these areas where it kind of can flow into. Let's see, where am I? Oh, spacing on things here. I have been censored with my nudes too, called them erotic. I could show them erotic nudes, not mine, so I don't show my nudes or blur out the parts. Yeah, like even the painting, the one painting I did on here that was like my overwhelm painting, and I just posted like a squished down version of it yesterday, a 10-minute version of doing that where I talk over a little bit. Like even that, you got some visible breast, and it's not like she's nude. It's not like gratuitous. It's not about sex, but I mean, you can't control how people react to things, so it is gonna be just whatever. But and you know what? I don't generally get offended by that kind of thing, because you know what? The people who feel that way, they're not my people. They're not the people that I'm trying to reach with my work. They're not the people who I want to see it, who I care about seeing it. And probably the same with your work. They're just not the people who are ever going to like buy a painting from you or that kind of thing. So let them be outraged about things all on their own. That sounds fun, but take your tinfoil hat for groups. Can be challenging, but this is my old me talking. My inner child says play. You know, artists, we're all a little weird, aren't we? It's fun. Does the blue shadow mix with the warm skin tone? If so, how does one control it with the amount of water, etc.? Well, if you let it dry really well, it'll mostly just sit underneath it. Like you'd have to work it to get it to blend. So you're just gonna put layers over it at this point. And the more layers of other colors you add, like either the more layers or the more saturated color you lay over it, the more it's gonna fall back as just being a shadow tone. I have a tendency to, when I'm working with watercolors, do a lot more like many thin layers, more so than I think a lot of people do. There is no particular right or wrong about it, I don't believe, but it's sort of what you like to do, what works for you, what gets the results that you might want, I suppose. And I have been experimenting with trying to do fewer layers, more saturated. But I tend to, like, if I'm not really thinking about it, I do have a tendency to fall back onto doing lots of thin layers of color. And depending on how saturated your colors are, like to some extent that blue will continue to shine through. Like you will probably generally know that there's a layer of blue there. So if you really want realistic skin tones, you might, instead of just painting a straight blue color, like just have a semi-neutral color toned with some blue, like mixed into it, so it's not so straight. So intense in color, if you don't want to see that at the end, if that makes sense. Noses. Noses right now, to me, are so challenging, but it's the last hurdle, and then I think I'll have the skill to do a whole face properly. My stupid brain really struggles with the tip of the nose. I can understand that. Sometimes you can break them into shapes, and when you use... Yeah, I wrote down the other guys so I remember. Like, okay, I have a photo over there of a girl whose nose is a little bit at, like, slight profile. The tip of the nose is often... It depends on the person. We're all a little different, but sometimes you just start with a circle or whatever you find the shape there. She has a very kind of interesting shape to her face and her nose. And there's often the side of the nostril, which is like a little bit of a different plane, comes up and it actually tucks in under. And then you can start with a circle here, but it continues and kind of tucks under too. And then you've got your other side that you see a little bit from the side. And then carve out where the actual nostrils are, what you see of them. Yeah, this girl maybe was a weird example because she had kind of a funny shaped nose, but pull some of those hard lines away. But like finding the shapes and then or the planes, if somebody has a very angular nose, is the underneath of your nose, this area is kind of a plane, but you'd still have to remember that it almost always has like a rounded tip. Like there are comic books where noses become, or the way people draw, very sharp. And then they just have your nostrils like that. I mean, it depends on how stylized you're going for, right? Certainly. But I think like playing around with it, seeing what works. I like weird noses though. I have two pictures over there of noses, and they're of girls' faces that I could draw from, and they both have like these cute little balls on their nose that come up. So I often will start with finding that shape, that initial shape. Like this girl, I don't really see as much of that. It becomes like a more, like I saw the triangle shape is what I started with on her. And then I carved out some of the other stuff from that. So you kind of start with shapes sort of like that, and there's a edge here where I can see that's like, that would be maybe where the shadow's hitting on top, the rounded part. And then the nostrils are coming in. That will help us get the shape of the bottom of the nose. And then it becomes about shading to get it any more detailed than that. Hey, noses. I love noses, and I love ears because they're weird and silly and interesting, and I love painting them. But anyway, sorry. Little tangents. That's not the brush I was using. There it is. I got my little brush holder, which is really cute, and I love to use it, but it doesn't quite fit where I want it to on this board, so just holding it to the side right now. Speaking of her nose, just kind of ignoring it there for a minute. Can't have that. I know that the answer is practice, but yeah. Yeah. I struggle with the head in general, especially the nose and mouth. I'm thinking it's a perspective problem among other things. They're tricky. And the only reason that I think that I've gotten okay at them is a lot of it had to do with that project I did 2 years ago where I did 100 portraits in 100 days. And then you just really learn how to look and break it down. And then the nose is often the brightest point on the face, and it often casts some of the darkest shadow on the face. So it becomes fairly prominent. So the combination of, yeah, the perspective of it, which is so different from person to person, and the angle of their face and the lighting, that all changes. Yes, it's a perspective issue. I have realized because when I do a center line, which hits the bottom of the nostrils, the tip of the nose may be either on or well off. Yeah, if they're at an angle, comes out away from it, that's right. The center line. So if I'm doing a sketch on my own, I find it hard to know where to place the tip of the nose accurately in perspective. Yeah, I would just practice by doing, like, you know, deep dive on Pinterest and watch, because the more you do, the more then you can just create on your own once you kind of get how, depending on where I'm going, how far out in this direction. That way, even though the center of my line is here, yeah, it is unfortunately just practice, I think. The tip protrudes out of the face as a 3D object. It rotates more than the rest of the face, so I don't know how to place it. If any of that makes sense, absolutely. Color temperatures and edges. One would think my brain and hand would connect. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. This is how our brains are. Yeah, it's just, they're tricky. Faces are hard, and then we're so particularly critical, especially of faces, because it's one of the things that we know to recognize the best, the easiest. Just naturally and instinctively, we look for faces and we recognize faces. So it does become a whole thing that we judge ourselves very harshly on. Even if we don't know how to draw them, we know how they should look. Whereas if we're drawing perspective drawings or something like that, a building doesn't necessarily have that instinctual recognition. So if we fudge a lot of details, we're not going to feel it or see it as much. Got a little lost on this side. Let that dry for a second, then I can correct that. This should be a softer edge. Thank you for the sketches. It's always helpful to see how others do it. Absolutely. Thanks to being neurospicy, there are some concepts and topics that take me a long while to get my head around. Absolutely. It just doesn't click like it does for others, but when I get it, I get it. Absolutely. I hear you. The hand-brain connection can get so frustrating. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I think isn't that one of the biggest things we struggle with when we're learning to draw and such? It's like what we see in our head or what we think we see in our head, trying to create that on paper becomes almost like it's so frustrating because we don't know how to. And then we're never happy with what we're drawing. often. Very often. And that's one of the things like that I'm trying to do with these sketchbook studies, is the things that I don't do often, I want to try doing more instead of just being like staying in my safe zone. I would like to try to do some landscapes and still lifes and the kind of work that I don't normally do much of. Give it some goes. We don't have much of a highlight in her eyes, necessarily. What there is very toned back. This is, yeah, this is an extremely loose painting, which isn't the worst thing, I guess. But yeah, I do want to continue to play around with doing, apologies guys again, doing work where I'm fewer layers, more saturated layers. How cross-eyed is she looking? Not too much? Good. A person's ear is like their fingerprint. You can be identified by just an ear. I actually saw a thing on some tech show on the BBC where they were, this was some time ago, they were talking to people who had done, no, it wasn't the ear. They were doing nose prints for dogs the way you do fingerprints for people, which was pretty interesting. And link to your MySpace. Yes. I remember having a MySpace account. 100 years ago. And it took some convincing to get me to start a MySpace account, I remember. $100 years ago. Do kids even know what MySpace is anymore? What a time it was to be alive, the early days of social media. You have some good parks by you, and in Schaumburg, the farm. Oh yeah, not thrilled with the traffic getting there. Yeah, it's that's the worst thing. The best thing about Schaumburg is that there's a Blick art supply store there. But I am in there at least once a week just because I have appointments that I drive through Schaumburg to get to. There's some good, oh, there's some wonderful, like ethnic grocery stores in the area that we frequent. I'll often stop and pick up things from Patel Brothers. It's like an Indian grocery store. And there's Mitsuwa that's out there, which is a really lovely, like, Asian grocery store. with a little food court in it and a bookstore in it. Fun to walk through. Good food if you can find a table to sit and eat some dim sum or whatever at. So there's some nice things, and there's like a bunch of new Indian grocery stores opening up there, which is cool. I'm excited to eventually try them out. Yeah, definitely the art supply store. I really like going to, what's nearby is a park that I really like is Bussy Woods. They're, it's a really nice forest preserve to walk. I went kayaking there like a week or two ago, which was wonderful. I used to go there. It was really close to a place I worked for a long time. And I would sometimes even go there on my lunch breaks and just like lay down a yoga mat and take a nap. And the weather was nice, like outside under a tree. I used to go there in the mornings to run. When I was briefly into running. And I do remember the reactions from people when you'd tell anyone that. You're running at Bussy Woods, you're gonna get killed, you're gonna get attacked, you're gonna get assaulted. Like, oh my God, people. I never was. I never felt like I was in any danger there. There was always a lot of people around. Enough people. Like, enough people to, like, you're an eye shot of somebody, but also not close enough to you that you feel like you don't have any space, you know? So that was always part of it that I liked. Ah, being a girl. I don't have MySpace. No worries. I don't think it's existed for about 12 years. Something like that. Yeah, that is a long, long past blip on the internet history radar. Did you have offensive music playing at full volume on it? I believe I did. So yes. Oh yeah, those were the days. Sparkling gifts everywhere. Bussy Woods, I kayak there. Yes, I love kayaking there. Not anymore. I kayak in Lake Geneva. That one might freak me out a little bit. Lake Geneva's super deep. And there's a lot of like boats there too. Whereas if you go to Bussy, it's just some people in canoes and other kayaks and some folks fishing. Not so intimidating. I'm very early on in my abilities as a kayaker, so I'm being a little careful thus far. Just going at all that first time was such like a big deal for me then, and I loved it so much. So gotta get out a few more times, get comfortable with it. I definitely do want to get out and do it more. She looks a little bug-eyed. Let's see if I can improve that at all. Okay, let's see here. What do we got going on? Oh, there's Watson. Hi, baby cat. I think I got a little sloppy with the shape of the goggles, and that doesn't really help. And I'm rather abusing my paper, which you can probably tell. Yeah. Probably take count of them on number of times I hit my brush against the microphone. I'm losing my nose shape here. Yeah, I definitely lost some of my nose there. Let me see. Everything I'm doing is like death to paper. Unfortunately. So not the best uses of my materials. let's see what we can do about that. Probably not quite dry enough just yet to really improve anything here. This is not great, guys. I will be the first to admit. This is not looking great. One thing that I see that I've done is her eyes are like way too big. Kids, don't try this at home. This is not the way to watercolor paint. It's when I bought wheels for my kayak so I can go anytime. Awesome. I like her hair in her mouth a lot. Thank you. I'm not loving it yet. But I haven't given up yet. It's messy. It's very messy. Let me put on another light there. Whoa. Okay. Let me just, come on, white balance. For good or bad, I have auto white balance on the camera. Maybe my ISO is too high. But I'm seeing that it looks very cool. Like, it looks much cooler on here than... than it does when I'm looking at it. It looks cooler on the screen. Okay. Dry enough to destroy yet? Maybe I didn't have enough coffee today. That's possible. That's always a possibility. And because I was going kind of loose and sloppy painting this. It wasn't, for just being such a small drawing, it doesn't help. It's very easy to adjust a line a little bit wrong way, one way or the other, and then that can throw off so much when you're working this small. So that was definitely not the best approach. Love the painting. Well, thank you. You guys are way too kind, because definitely made some significant errors on this. But that's the point of having sketchbook sessions like this. It's like a good place to try things and see what will or will not work for you, and learn from it. All right, now let me see if I can fix this nose. At least I think I got her nostrils back in the right place, more or less. So that's something. Just sort of trying to get some of the darkest little moments there that are happening. Okay. Some of that definitely helped a little bit. And then kind of at a point where maybe what I would do, if anything else, would be like pull out some pencils of some sort or markers and kind of have some fun popping out some colors and that sort of thing. So let's see here. It's not the best likeness. That's for sure. Okay. Slightly improved, slightly. One of the things is I kind of rushed through the sketch too, which, because I wanted to get to the painting. And that's has obviously not worked to my advantage either. And another thing is, when you work with watercolors, they dry lighter than they go on the page. Oh, sorry again. I'm hopeless. Brushes and microphone. Maybe I need the microphone to like come down from above me. That might be the only hope to not do that. All right, a couple brushes of some more color to punch up some of the other elements around her. I had to vacate the porch. My threshold was reached. Oh my goodness, I don't know how you made it that long. You're off for the night. Thanks for the stream. Everyone have a great... Yes, absolutely. Everybody have an awesome night. And it's been... I think that I am also basically done for today. Brought it back. Don't hate it as much. Could definitely spend more time to make it a little better, but I think it's okay. For about a not quite 2-hour painting, not so bad. You guys have a great day, night, and weekend. I hope everybody stays cool, enjoys, have some creative time. Love y'all. Have a great night.